One of my goals this year was actually to bring joy to others with my sewing. And well, I'm making good on that, so let me tell you about it. I'm Mari with Mari Sews, and welcome back. So, as you already know, one of my goals this year was to bring joy to others with my sewing. And I have a friend whose birthday is coming up, and she's actually a really good friend. I've known her since 4th grade. Well, it's her birthday, and I thought I'd make her something cute. So this top right here, this is Simplicity 9017, and it's this pattern right here. I did view B over here with the contrasting sides, and you know, I just knew that this thing was going to be a quick sew. Well, it wasn't. The thing that really complicated this sweater was that it was really difficult to grade these sides because the sides were all kind of set straight, and where they had actually graded it was in between at that side seam. So in order to kind of grade out for any hip type of action, you would have had to had redrafted the sides. And not knowing exactly where my friend's curves hit, I didn't want to take that risk. Because I didn't want to redraft those sides, this top became a little more complicated just to kind of put together than I had originally thought it would be. Two of the things that really caught my eye about this pattern was the really cool looking neckline here that comes up and then comes kind of like straight across, and it was actually really fun to put together. And the other thing was this contrasting side here. Even though I made this for a friend, I did try it on because she's really close to my measurements just to make sure that everything was kind of like flowing in the right direction. And well, there was some really strange things happening. I mean, I don't know who they were drafting those sleeves for. I couldn't imagine. I don't know, maybe if someone was like 6'2" or something, like maybe they'd have super long arms like that. But really, I ended up taking 5 inches off of these sleeves. And I had a friend in one of my sewing groups who actually sewed up this top as well, and she noted the same thing. So I thought that was kind of odd. Not only were these sleeves super long, but they were actually a little wider than I would have liked them to be. If I were making this for myself, I would shorten the sleeves again, but I would also slim them down for myself. Another thing that I had noticed is that this side panel here, this accent panel, twists over to the front while you're wearing it. And I'm not exactly sure why it does that. And it kind of drives me nuts because in this picture here, it doesn't look like it's coming in at an angle. So I'm not exactly sure why it's doing that. It doesn't appear to be doing it too much in the back here, but it does do it a little bit. It's so weird. I'm not sure why it did that. Looking at the pattern here, you can see that her sweater looks pretty long on her. And because of the whole hip issue, like having to grade out for hips, I really didn't want to mess too much around with that. So what I ended up doing was just shortening it just a bit. Well, actually, I shortened it quite a bit to get it to this length here, which I think is pretty good, actually. For the hem at the very bottom here and on the sleeves, I went ahead and I serged the edges. I just used black thread, and in my looper, I used stretch thread so that there wouldn't be an issue with any popped threads. This fabric I picked up at Fabric Mart. This is a stretch velvet. It's got some pretty nice give, actually. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. And then this fabric I've had in my stash for a couple of years. I actually picked it up at a shop in Florida. It's a stretch burnout velvet. And so I thought that those two went really nicely together. This collar was actually really cool to make because what they do is they have you cut it all in one piece and then you fold it over. And so you can see here's the edge. But when it's all folded over, there's no There's no stitching lines going across. And that's on both the front and the back. So I really like the construction method of this pattern. And to be honest, it's this neckline right here that I really, really love about this pattern. And is probably honestly the only reason why I would even consider making this thing again and redrafting the sides. I think I'd really like one for myself. I think this neckline is my favorite feature on this top, and is probably the reason why I'm not going to toss this thing. I would really like a top with that kind of a neckline. So I think that if I were to make this for myself, what I would end up doing is redrafting the sides to make them curvier using one of my blocks, probably something similar to my cashmere Concord t-shirt that has, some pretty nice curves. I would lengthen it some. And then I would probably redraft. Look, let me just take all of that right back, because what I think would be the smarter option would be to take my cashmere Concord tee that I already know fits me, lengthen it a bunch, cut out this side, add some seam allowance so that way I have this little bit, and then use this pattern to draft a new neckline on it. So that way I can have something super cute like this, but it doesn't necessarily have that angle in the front. I don't mind it, really. Who am I kidding? I do mind it. It's the reason why I'm sitting here talking about changing it. With all of that being said, I think that with the changes that I made, this ended up being a really cute top. And I hope that my friend just really loves it and enjoys wearing it and feels fabulous in it, because that's the entire goal of sewing, right? And there you have it. This is Simplicity 9017. I wouldn't really recommend that a curvy person with a small waist, big hips sew this thing up, because I don't feel like this pattern lends itself to being able to grade out easily for that. However, if you're not one of those people who are shaped like a pear with like a smaller upper body and bigger hips, this might actually work for you, because the pattern pieces are cut like pretty straight down the sides. But please, if you like this top and you like how it ended up, go ahead and make it yourself. I mean, what do you have to lose? Other than maybe a couple of yards of fabric. Just don't use the good fabric the first time around, maybe. But to be honest, I really do like the end result that I got here. So if you do want to try it out and you feel like tackling some of those fitting issues, go for it. I mean, aren't we all here like to learn and figure things out on this sewing journey? Well, thank you for hanging with me. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and click that bell notification so that way you know the next time that there's a video. And until next time, I sincerely hope that you find joy and have a wonderful day. Bye.